Hey, Karl, can you start us off by just giving a 1 minute introduction as to who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Karl Eagleman, and I'm a coach, but also most people probably know me as the creator of Whiteboard Daily, which is an Instagram account, primarily an Instagram account where I illustrate coaching cues, movement sequences, and provide content to help athletes and coaches and those who want to improve their own movement. That's really the gist of what I do. I try to provide value. I try to share the things that I've learned across or throughout my entire career as a coach and athlete to help other people become better coaches and athletes as well.
Awesome. Is there anything that the audience should know about you outside of coaching?
Yeah, sure.
And Whiteboard Daily?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a husband and a father. So it's one of those things where a lot of people, like what we see on social media, especially for, I don't know, like I guess the influencer accounts, perhaps I'm not necessarily calling myself an influencer at all, but like you kind of see the one dimensional of the person. And like, there's a lot more to those people, I assume. I mean, just like me, there's a lot more to like my day-to-day life. Like I draw quite often, like illustrate on whiteboards, but I try to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be. We've got an 11-year-old daughter. And my full-time gig right now, I am the head strength and conditioning coach at Columbus East High School here in Columbus, Indiana. And I just love that job. We got a beautiful gym, awesome students, awesome athletes. And I love it because I get inspired every day working with them. And I take that inspiration and I use it on Whiteboard Daily, along with the inspiration that I gather from other coaches that I look up to.
I got it. Yeah, it seems like having a job like that where you're constantly doing what you're preaching is almost necessary as you're creating for Whiteboard Daily. Could you explain like what your typical day-to-day looks like then as a strength coach and then, content creator?
Yeah, well, you really nailed it there because that was a big kind of issue for me, especially when Whiteboard Daily started to get some traction, especially around COVID, because I was actually working for a national governing body. I was working for USA Track and Field. And then once COVID hit, I was laid off. I was one of the first employees to be laid off from that. And in retrospect, it was like the best thing to happen for me because it was a job that I was just overworked and underpaid. I wasn't passionate about it. I was traveling a ton. It was a cool job to tell people that I did, but I really wasn't into it. I just didn't like what I'm doing right now. I love it. And there's no question about it. I'm passionate about that. And I think most people who probably can identify with it, like you've got passions inside of you and you've got unique abilities and skill sets and that make you different from other people. And you really have to listen to those things because those are really important. It's important to build that self-awareness of what makes you who you are. And you got to follow that stuff because that's where you're going to find some fulfillment there. But anyway, I was let go from USA Track and Field, and my wife and I are actually pretty excited because I was like, okay, sweet. Now I can go all in on Whiteboard Daily, this project that I've been building for like 3 years. And it was awesome. I loved it because I could devote so much time to more illustrations, gathering more content to share with people to provide more value. But then I wasn't coaching at that time either. So I felt like I had this big imposter where I was telling coaches, I was just building upon the experience that I had in the past of being a coach and being an athlete and saying, hey, this is how you should do it. But at that time I wasn't coaching it. And I didn't like that I wasn't really necessarily walking the walk of being a coach. And so thankfully, I was like, enough of this. I want to start coaching. I got this head strength conditioning coach position at Columbus East. And like I said, the gym's beautiful. The students are awesome. We love living in Columbus. So everything just worked out. And again, I'm back to getting inspired from my full-time gig to like provide content, valuable content for people to make them better coaches and athletes. So I think followers in general, people start to recognize those who are kind of the imposters or those who are just kind of like doing stuff just for likes. Sooner or later, the truth kind of comes to the surface because if you're real and if you're genuine and if you are just existing to provide value for other people, they're going to see that sooner or later. And they're also going to see the opposite. If you're just doing stuff just for likes, if you're doing stuff just to get attention, where's the value in that? You need to provide value. I think that's what people need and are looking for.
Definitely. Well, I think everyone, including myself, I'd love to rehear this. It's been so long since we kind of connected years ago, and we both kind of grew up in this little world together, and also not too far away. So would love to just hear the beginning of the Whiteboard Daily story. What was the original goal behind it?
The original goal behind it was to take all the content or all the knowledge that I had gained from being a CrossFit athlete and a CrossFit coach and a collegiate basketball player and just an enthusiast when it comes to sports, and take all that knowledge that I gained throughout my life and provide like little nuggets of value for people. And I chose to do it using a medium that was pretty commonly understood by most athletes, especially CrossFitters. That was kind of like my target demographic when I first started this off. The whiteboard is pretty recognizable. That's where everyone kind of gathers before a workout, where the coach goes over everything. He's like, okay, here's the workout of the day. This is what you're going to do. These are rep schemes, all that. A whiteboard's pretty accessible. It's pretty easy for me to build content on something like that. And like I said earlier too, with my job, I was traveling a lot, and I used to travel with a little piece of, like a square piece of like shower board, like you could use it as a whiteboard, really glossy, and you could write on it and erase it. Just a beat up square piece of shower board. And I was like, you know what? I think that I'm going to just give it a shot, see what happens with this. And so I started just to write up like workouts or motivational quotes or things that I thought were kind of cool. And I just kind of posted one a day. I was like, okay, I'm going to try and do just one a day and see how that goes. And I quickly realized, like motivational quotes and workouts, if you're on social media, you're going to see that all over the place. There's nothing special about that stuff. And so I kind of decided to dig a little bit deeper and see what other kind of content I could provide that I thought would be useful. So I started to like draw up coaching cues and things that would help coaches like kind of communicate movement to people. And so I started to draw up like stick figures doing things that would relate to the coaching cue, triple extension or down like a rock, up like a rocket, skill transfers from like a med ball slam to like a ski erg type of thing. And people really started to dig that. They started to really connect with that sort of stuff. And the great thing about that's the stuff that I love to do. I really enjoy, and I got a lot of satisfaction out of like being creative with how I would communicate a cue or a movement. It just kind of grew from there. And I quickly realized that challenging myself to do one thing a day made me a better coach, because when you are a teacher, you have to continually learn. When you stop learning, you stop growing. But if you're continually learning, then you're continually gathering new and valuable information that you can pass on to your students or your athletes. And so here I was putting myself in a position to continually learn and to continually gather new things that I think would be valuable for people. And it made me a better coach too. So it was a great project, not only for me personally, but also just in general. I think people got a lot of value out of it.
Yeah. You know what I like about that story is you kind of just started, you started doing something daily, you put it out there, and then I'm guessing it was something a little bit different each day. And then ultimately you kind of saw something that clicked. Yeah. So like, if you wouldn't have just started, you wouldn't have been able to adapt. And ultimately, like I said, it clicked and it grew relatively quickly. Can you explain to me, like, when you first started, what did the engagement numbers look like? Yeah. And how has that evolved over time, or how quickly did it kind of take off?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I know that I'm speaking your language because I feel like you did the same thing too, with like, you probably just started off with like a very humble garage gym just because you liked working out and it was convenient for you. And then sooner or later you're like, well, that's cool, I'm going to add that. And then you just kind of add layers and layers. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you really just look at like the lowest hanging fruit and you work your way up from there. And we can get into that later on, but really it's just like step by step, layer by layer, you kind of inch your way up the tree, if you want to say it like that. And then before you know it, you're way far beyond what you even thought you could handle. The engagement, it was kind of slow starting off. It probably for a year, maybe I was under that, I was under that like 10,000 follower mark, which is like a big echelon. That's like Instagram. That's where your numbers change from like a 9.8K to like a 10K. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you hit that 10K mark, you're like, okay, it's getting pretty cool here. And I remember once it hit 10K, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. Like I feel like they're starting to gain some momentum. And then I think other coaches or other certification entities, like they would start to share my stuff. And I was like, I remember like for example, CrossFit Gymnastics, they shared one of my drawings and I gained like 300 followers in a day. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was at a stoplight and I threw my phone across the seat. I was like, I can't, like, it was like crazy. And then, you know, things just snowballed from there. And I like at once was a time when I was gaining probably like 1,000 followers every day. And it was just because I think people saw that I was sticking to a theme. I wasn't trying to make it about me. I was trying to provide some value that was relatable, that was simple for people, not just like elite athletes, but like your everyday athlete that didn't even know what they were doing. When you make your content relevant to a broad range, but also kind of specialized, you really hit a sweet spot there and people just like jump on that. And so I remember like hitting 100K and my wife and I like celebrated with like some champagne. It was pretty fun. And then within a year, I hit the 200K mark. And then I think it probably took me another year to hit the 300K mark. And then over this, it starts to kind of plateau over a while. And I think this time last year, I just hit 300K and now I'm at 340 something. So it's like 40 some thousand in the past year. And again, it's not about the numbers, like you said, but it's like the numbers do kind of dictate the reach that you have and the popularity, of course. But as things have grown, it's like, I don't want Whiteboard Daily to just be like an Instagram account. I want to leave a legacy. I want to like provide opportunities for other coaches to get better outside of just like what social media can handle. And like a big part of that is like my book that just came out. Like that was a big dream of mine to finally see come to reality.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book. How did that come about? And I'm curious, how long of a process was it to finally reach the market or be available for people to buy?
Like, I'm pretty sure it was a year and a half ago. Glenn Cordoza reached out to me. Glenn Cordoza he's the co-author on Supple Leopard with Kelly Starrett. Like that's probably one of his most popular books. That along with his work with Brent Contreras, who does the Glute Lab. Anything related to the glutes, Brent Contreras is the guy for that. Yeah. And so he's the co-author on those books. And someone had passed along my account to him, and he's like, man, this would be a really cool book. And so he reached out to me and asked me if I had ever thought about making it a book. And I was like, of course, like that's been a dream of mine. And he's like, well, let me put you in contact with my publisher and we'll try and work something out. And again, a year and a half ago, I was just kind of like, much smaller than the account was relatively smaller than what it is now. But I was looking for like that next step of like, what can I do to kind of move on from just being a social media account? So he was awesome in connecting me and then also kind of helping me navigate the waters of like what it looks to put together a book. So I signed a contract with Victory Belt, and they kind of set some loose guidelines as to be like, okay, what do you envision as this book looking like? And they're very kind of open to me just kind of like guiding on like what my thoughts would be. And really the book that people are holding in their hands right now is really identical to what I wanted it to be. So over the past year, really what it looked like was me kind of curating all the content that I created, cleaning it up in Photoshop, getting the captions together, organizing all this content, this giant bulk of content with Victory Belt. And what that looks like, I guess on the back end, it's basically shared files through Dropbox of all of my drawings. And then also we work through a Google Doc where I would like upload all of my captions. They would proof them and they would put them with the corresponding image. And then they would take all of that. They have their own design team who are phenomenal, by the way. And then they would kind of like lay out everything in the book. And then they would kind of give me samples of how each page would look. And I'd be like, yeah, that's perfect. That looks like, I love that. Or let's change this. That was like the hard part, is just kind of staying on top of that because, here I was, teaching full time, but then also still running Whiteboard Daily and like the business side of that, along with creating new content that's valuable for people. And then also on top of that, putting everything together for the book. And so looking back now, it was a lot of hard work, but man, it's been so worth it. And it went really, really fast to think about where I am right now.
Awesome. So for those not aware of what the book is, could you give a quick description of that?
Yeah, absolutely. The book is called The Whiteboard Daily Book of Cues, and it is the largest comprehensive collection of coaching cues that's ever been published. And I was kind of specializing. I kind of deviated from CrossFit for a while, and I just want to try out different sports. I feel like that's what CrossFit kind of does. It kind of introduces you to other things that you might be interested in. And I was focusing on Olympic weightlifting, and my coach at the time was Will Fleming in Bloomington, Indiana, and he was giving me like coaching cues. I was like, man, that'd be so cool to have like a book of just coaching cues that would help people kind of understand movement. But I was really kind of overwhelmed with like, what does that even look like? How, a big project like that, like how do you even get started on that? And I just kind of put it in the back of my mind and kept on going on. And then I guess that kind of desire was kind of like in the background when I created Whiteboard Daily. I wanted to create like, a comprehensive list of cues that could help people. And then sure enough, it's grown into exactly that. It's a book of cues that coaches can use to help their athletes move better and take complex movements and break them down to like little simple sayings or images or whatever. Again, yeah. And it's available on all over the place. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, even like small little bookshops. It was released on July 26th, and it's hard to describe the feeling I got when I started to see videos roll in of like people all over the place, like Japan and Australia and New Zealand and Italy, like all over the world that are like, oh man, I'm so excited to see this book. And I'm like, geez, like it's still settling in. It still feels surreal to have my name on a book that I'm very proud of, and just to see it actually help people. It's a really fulfilling feeling.
I can't think of anything that would make many people feel much more accomplished than saying they're an author.
Yeah.
So thinking about the listeners of this podcast, a lot of the people are someone, they're listening to this because they're interested in home gyms and fitness and the entrepreneurial side of it. And some of them like truly they've started something and they want to ultimately, get to, I know you have dreams of even more, but they want to get to like where you are. They want to get through the trenches, make it something that, helps a lot of people and is something that can provide for themselves as well. I'd be curious to hear, why do you think it all worked for you? Like what did you do specifically? Surely you like we mentioned earlier, just kind of started. What did you do that really helped you get to where you are today?
I think that a big part of it was, number one, providing value, providing information that people could use and not just like fluff or not just like flash. Usually people on social media follow other people for three reasons. They're either friends or family. They follow people because they're entertainers or because they're educational. And so I locked down that education. I was like, I'm going all in on this. I don't care about me being the face of this. I want it to be relatable to everybody. There's enough like white males out there, like I want my images to be like something that somebody in India can relate to, a stick figure, right? And so I went all in on like trying to provide value. A second thing I think is being unique. I don't think anybody else was like drawing things or drawing stick figures or kind of like drawing how cues could be visualized, that sort of thing. So being kind of unique in the way that you do it makes a big difference as well. And a third thing is just consistency. Like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. Just every single day, show up. Don't stop. And don't get me wrong. Like there would be days that I would post something and in my mind, I'm like, oh man, this is the jam. Like people are going to go bonkers over this. They're going to love this cue. And then I'd hit post and it would be crickets and it would just be like, and I was like, oh man, but you know what? It's like, I can't care about that because my end goal isn't just that one post. It's like, it's years from now. And so when I look back, it's going to be the culmination of everything I've put out there. And I always want to like completely exhaust my mind of any kind of idea that I have and put it out there. Because I feel like the ideas that people get, it's really simple to just kind of push them in the back of your mind, be like, oh yeah, that'd be cool if that happened. But like, I really want to capitalize on that moment to be like, okay, no, I need to draw that up, get it out of my brain so I can move on to the next thing. So those three things right there is just providing value, trying to find like a unique spin on things that people might identify with, and then consistently just showing up. Those three things, I'll tell you, that those will take you far.
I think you're right, and all of those are simple, but hard to do over time.
They're kind of hard.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would say I'm a little jealous of are all of the cool collaborations that you've done. So you'll see and it's easy to collab with somebody as creative as you, but it's cool to see how you've had your designs on shoes.
Oh my gosh.
People get tattoos, Caffeine and Kilos. I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. A lot of cool collaborations. I'd be curious to hear just like your experiences with that. Plus, if there's any like truly crazy stories you have of your content out there in the wild.
Oh my gosh. I've got plenty of stories for you because I never expected especially the tattoos. Man, I was working at USA Track and Field when I saw the first Whiteboard Daily inspired tattoo, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I'm onto something so much bigger with this Whiteboard Daily thing than I am with my job. And it kind of put things in perspective about what I should really be putting my energy into. But yeah, so first example was like a tattoo, seeing a drawing that I did as a tattoo on somebody. And the very first one was a young lady in China. And of all the things that she got tattooed, she got the that one cue, the Coach Bergner cue of like when the arms bend, the power ends, and it was on the back of her shoulder. And I was like, I just was speechless, and I still am. To think about these things that I draw on a whiteboard, in my garage or at my gym or my office, and to think that people identify with it so much and it provides so much relevance that people want to get it tattooed. It's a big honor because as a coach, you want to provide value, and you want to provide value that's relevant. And when they see something that's so relevant to them that they have a connection with it strong enough to tattoo it, then you create something pretty cool right there. One of the very first kind of like big time collaborations I had was with Wit Fitness. I think they're based in London and in the UK. And they had a promo that was like the Metcon 5 maybe was about to come out. And they had like a whiteboard version of the Metcon 5 where it was like a whiteboard finish on the shoe. I know you remember what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I reached out to them. I was like, hey, and I was probably, looking back now, I was probably like 75,000 followers. I could probably look up the email. And I was like, hey, would you guys want to do a collaboration? And they were like, yeah, that's really cool. It's really unique because it's like collision of like two things here. We got fitness and we got whiteboard and we got merchandise and we got all these things kind of coming together. And so they went all in on it. And so I remember just completely geeking out when I would get the email back from them saying, yeah, let's do this. And this is also back then too. Again, it's fun to talk to you because I know you know what I'm talking about as far as like trying to build your following, and a lot of it you do it through giveaways and like tag a buddy. And I just kind of stopped doing that because it was just like kind of, I don't know, more work for what it's worth, and
spam. Yeah.
And just spam like crazy. And I'm pretty sure you've done the same thing where you just kind of deviate from that. You're like, okay, it's just, I want to gain quality followers. I want to gain people who want to follow me because they want to follow me, not because they think they're going to get some free stuff. And so this is back when like giveaways were a really big deal, or a bigger deal. And that was just really special. And again, I use that term of like the lowest hanging fruit. And I guess here, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I'm sure your followers might dig this. I'll kind of give a really kind of crash course as to how I start to monetize what I'm doing. The very first thing I was like, okay, people start to request drawings on shirts. They're like, oh, this would be so cool on a shirt. I was like, well, how can I do that? And there's a platform called Bonfire. And Bonfire, all you do is just upload an image, and then you select like what kind of color the shirt is, what kind of shirt you want, all these different kinds of apparel. And then they take care of everything else. They take care of printing it, of fulfillment, of shipping it out. But all you need to do is just kind of generate some sales for them. And then once they hit like an echelon of like 10 shirts are sold or 20 shirts or whatever, then they'll go ahead and print it and ship it out. But you set the price and you want people to buy it. So you set a low price. And if you set a low price, then your cut is like way, way small. And I remember I was making like $2-3 per shirt. And I was like, I didn't care because I was like actually providing some kind of product that had Whiteboard Daily on it. I thought it was pretty cool. So I think one of the first shirts I did was like the snatch sequence. People just love that movement sequence. And I probably generated like $1,000 in revenue. And I was like, all right, this is awesome. Like I've hit the big time now, $1,000. Yeah. That wasn't there before. And so I just reinvested that because the next thing was posters. People always want posters. So I was like, okay, I took that $1,000 and I bought posters from a printer. And I think I could buy 100 posters. And the first one was a snatch sequence, 100 posters for $300. So I did that, received them. And then I started to sell them. I set up a Shopify account, a Shopify store. I set the price for the posters at $24. And then, but then also people, they would pay for the postage, but I would have to buy the tubes, buy the shipping sleeves and all that stuff. And then also roll them up and then take them to the post office. So I was still doing a fair amount of work to do the fulfillment, but they were generating more revenue. And again, I would take that revenue, reinvest it back into more posters and different designs. So like, if you think about inventory and you think about like, if someone only offers apples, then all they're going to see is like orders for apples. But if you offer apples and oranges and bananas and pineapples, now your orders become larger because you can offer more things. So I just try and expand my inventory. I started doing more posters. They liked that. And then I was like, okay, I started running into like shipping issues because I get people from all over the world that would purchase stuff, but then the shipping tubes would get beat up or they would take forever to actually finally reach their destination on the other side of the world. And I was like, well, how about I start doing ebooks? And so I started doing ebooks. And that was like a whole new world because I would do all the front end work of creating like a PDF of all like a certain movement or whatever, some kind of corresponding movement that would make an ebook that makes sense. And then I would sell that for like, I forget how much, maybe $25 for an ebook. And the awesome thing about this is that like I would wake up to like 7 or 8 orders and I was done. I didn't have to do anything because the fulfillment is immediate. Like they get a link to download, done. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'll stop right there. But that's the idea, is just like step by step, just kind of work your way up to figure out like what you can afford. Don't ever like go into debt about something. I guarantee, just like I know how you build Garage Gym Experiment, like you just work your way up with what you have. And then you just knowing that you're in it for the long haul, and you just have patience, but you bust your ass every single day and just like stick with it.
Yeah, that was cool to hear. And yeah, that's just kind of how you have to do it. If you don't have, a trust fund or capital behind you. All right. So you've kind of talked about how you built Whiteboard Daily, where it's at now. What's next?
That's a really great question. The short answer is I'm already working on the second book, like the volume 2 to the book that currently exists. Because I got a good thing going on. I got a great relationship with my publisher. They love the book that's out right now. I love the book that's out right now. It seems to be very well received. And Whiteboard Daily is still a great platform for me to share illustrations of cues. And the great thing about what I'm doing is that it's pretty evergreen. Like it's pretty like, it's the type of content that's not good, like a fad or stylish. Like it's going to be around for a long time. Like it's still going to be relevant in 10 years. So there's really no shortage of movements to cover, because here I am. This first book was really just like the CrossFit type movements, especially Olympic weightlifting. And there's so many other movements out there to do, more gymnastics. But you look at like team sports, like baseball or basketball, volleyball, all of these things that, I can expand upon in terms of coaching cues and movement sequences that haven't even been touched yet. And so the next book is going to be probably targeted toward a wider demographic, much younger athletes and much older athletes that can still get a lot of stuff from the coaching cues that I put out there. And I've been talking with Caffeine Kilos. We want to do some big stuff about like giving back to the community, especially the coaching community. So I think we're going to ramp up the Whiteboard Daily coaching education grant, which was really a cool time in my life. I did that. I gave away 5 grants, and that was another way to kind of like build exposure and provide assistance for coaches that want to continue their coaching education. But I'm going to start ramping that up because I feel like it's one of those things when you help other people, you're going to be helping yourself. And I think a lot of people are kind of hesitant to first take that step of like helping somebody else and not have the intention of like it coming back to them and just doing it just to help other people out. I think there's a lot of importance and a lot of value in doing that. And people recognize that. They pick up on that. So I want to start giving back to the community. Aside from like the grants and the volume 2 book, I don't know. Like there's so much, I don't know. I spend a lot of time thinking about that again, because I don't want to just be locked into like Instagram because there's so much that's out there.
Yeah. If you're like me, you probably have 10, 20, 30 ideas. And you're like, I don't know which one to go for. So you mentioned some collabs earlier. Have any of like the strength sports, like official CrossFit or official powerlifting, ever reached out? Or I feel like you could provide some good services to them. Yeah,
absolutely. Really. So USA Weightlifting, we've been in talks a lot, and I do believe that we are going to work together in the future. They see a lot of my content as very valuable and relevant for their coaches, and I see it too. And that's the type of people that I would like to partner with. So I think that we will definitely be working together in the future on coaching education content. That's no question. I'll tell you, it would be cool to somehow link up with CrossFit in the future. I don't know how, obviously through coaching education, definitely that avenue, but there's other sports I think would be fun. Rowing, USA Rowing. There's a lot of cues that I do that are involved in rower, maybe even full circle going back to USA Track and Field. I don't know, but you look at like these national governing bodies of sport, and I think it really fits in with those. And then also too, you look at like NASM, or you look at other certifications that exist out there, like the CS, like a certified strength and conditioning coach, that sort of thing. Like there's a lot of opportunities out there in the realm of coaching education, and I'm definitely open to talking to any of those. But I also want to make sure that it's like, you want to recognize the value that you're providing, and you don't want to sell yourself short, because you don't want to like just jump for like the first thing that comes your way, because I want to make sure that I'm making the right decision and it's a right fit for both sides. So it's a really great opportunity, a great position to be in when you've created something that you think is valuable and you love to do it. You want to take care of it.
Yeah, there's got to be a way too, for a lot of us garage gym lifters, lifting by themselves. Mm-hmm. Surely we're not all doing it right. So that could be something to think about as well. Yeah. But how about your garage gym? Do you still have a garage gym?
Yeah, I do. So we just moved down to Columbus. I had a really nice little garage gym there in Greenwood. And thanks to my sponsorship with GetRx, a big plug for them. They've always been a big supporter of Whiteboard Daily. They've provided me with a really nice kit, a ZBX Air Plus runner, got the power rack. I got all the bumper plates I need. Nothing even close to the setup behind you, but it's all that I need, that's for sure. And in our new house, we actually have like these 11-foot ceilings. And so we capitalize on the space in the garage for the cars. And so all of our stuff, is in the basement right now, and with more than enough room for everything else that we need. So it's nice to have the space down there. I do miss just opening up the door and just having the fresh air come in. But when it gets cold outside, I don't have to worry about that so much anymore. So I still got my garage gym, I guess my basement gym now. I love it. I was lifting there yesterday, and then today I was lifting at my high school gym where I coach, and which is just a beautiful gym as well. So I guess I got the best of both worlds right now. I got a lot of access to what I need.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the workout split? I'm surely it's more at the high school, but
yeah, it is a lot because I go there every day. And so during my prep periods or during lunch, I'll hit what I need to hit. And then whenever I'm on the weekends or whenever I'm away from school. I work out at home.
Do you have any internet trolls?
I got people that are really quick to tell me that like something doesn't look right. And I don't mind that because they're usually right. Like if like just yesterday or the day before, like somebody was like, that last figure looks way taller than the other figures. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It does. Thanks for pointing it out. I'll make sure the next time I draw it. But I'll tell you what, man, like the larger, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, or like, I guess with a great following comes a great responsibility, because you really want to make sure that anything that I post, I want to make sure is correct. And if the slightest thing is off, people are really quick to be like, no, that's not right. Like, for example, most recently I posted a deadlift cue about shoulders back and down, which I think is a pretty decent cue. I like it because the term back, like retraction, you don't really want to like completely like retract your shoulders when you're doing a deadlift. I understand that you want to like bring them down. You want to create tension through your armpits. And so I completely understand where people are coming from. They were like, no, like you shouldn't say back. That's like a stupid cue for deadlift. Like it doesn't make sense. But I really doubt people are going to get injured from doing that. So you really got to be careful. I double, triple check my wording and the cue to make sure it's correct. It's not going to hurt anybody. So it's just, like I said, it makes me a better coach because I make sure that what I'm doing is good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not everybody's going to agree with everything. So you're coaching a lot of younger people and first time lifters, I'm guessing. At the high school. Yeah. So I'd be curious to hear, like, where do you think people go wrong when they first start lifting? Or just like, I'm not an expert on like what beginners should be doing, but if you've established any thoughts on the topic over the last couple of years, I'd love to hear some notable.
Two things that come to mind. Number one is this: every single time you are moving a barbell, you are kind of further ingraining a movement pattern. Okay. So if you grab a barbell, you're warming up, and you just kind of sloppily go through your warm-up sets, and you're not really paying attention to how you're moving, you're not taking full advantage of that time spent. You really got to understand that like your first reps should mirror your last reps and vice versa. Like there should be very little to distinguish between both of those. Like you got to kind of look at it as if you're like greasing a groove in a piece of wood, and you want to make sure that you are just doing every single thing you can to make that line exactly the way you want it to in terms of the bar path. So every single rep matters. Your warm-up reps, your working sets, your max outs, your competition, whatever it is, like every single time you move a barbell, it matters, and you got to move it with purpose. And the other thing that I've noticed, especially with younger lifters, is as a coach, what you're really doing more than anything else is that you are just building body awareness, which I think a lot of like new movers don't have that developed. Like you say, lift your right foot. And for you and I, it's pretty easy to do that because, I know exactly. I've got a good connection with my mind and my body. But like, and so that's why cues are so important, because if I say something a certain way, then not everybody understands that. So you have to have different ways to describe how to move correctly. So the more cues that you have, the more sharper your tools are when it comes to being a coach. So building body awareness through coaching cues is massively important. It's a big part of our job as coaches.
Well, that's all I have. Throughout this conversation, though, I just kept thinking about back. It was probably 4 years ago we met downtown Indy at Starbucks, and I remember we were both probably still like in the hole as far as like making any money or like, we had just kind of taken off. I'm guessing you had maybe 10,000 followers. I had 5,000, something along those lines. And we were just like really excited about the future. Yeah. And so far I think it's worked out. It was really good to catch up.
No, I really want people to understand like how cool that was. I don't know, for you and I to like, again, it's one of those things where I was like, oh man, like I'm trying to build something here. you're trying to build something here. Wait a second. Do you live in Indiana? Yeah, I live in Indiana. Wait, you live in
Yeah.
Indianapolis? Or like, yeah, I live there. Like, hey, let's meet up. And like, we met up, and it was just really cool because I feel like we were kind of cut from the same cloth in the sense that we both had something special that we wanted to share. We both had like an interest and something that was like special to us that we felt like we could build upon. And there's no question that you have, like, I know that you just hit it at the right time too. Because like, especially when COVID hit and garage gyms and like people are looking to like do their own thing and how special it is to have that freedom of like your own space to do exactly what you want to do. And I want to take this opportunity to let you know how proud I am of what you've built with your platform and connecting people with vendors and vice versa, and helping people feel that empowerment of like, you don't have to go to a gym to have what you need. Like, you can build that in your own little space there, because it's so special to have that, man. And especially when it comes to something like movement and something that improves your life. So man, it's just been so cool to see you grow and to see the collaborations that you've done and the businesses that you partner with. So I want to encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing, because I know that you're providing more value than what you even know.
Man, I appreciate that. Well, right back at you. Let's, before we go though, just I know you mentioned it earlier, but remind people where to, one, follow you, and then two, where they can find your book.
Yeah, cool. So it's pretty obvious, right? Whiteboard Daily on Instagram, and then just go to, I've got links in my bio there to go check out the book, but the most popular place is easily going to be Amazon. And you can either type in my name, Karl Eagleman, or you just type in Whiteboard Daily, and that book will pop up there. And I guarantee you, I know I'm biased because I can't put it out, but I guarantee that book's going to provide more value than what you pay for. It's going to come back as an investment big time.
Yeah, I own the book, and it is just really cool to own. Whether you look at it when you first start, or if you're going to be studying the cues and coaching, it can provide value to anyone lifting in a home gym. Specifically, though, if you're a coach, it's definitely going to simplify the process for you. I encourage everybody to go out and grab one. But that's going to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.